Brendan, how do you feel like the defensive line rotation has been working? Because I know you guys have been using a lot of guys, and they're trying to keep everybody fresh the first few weeks.
Yeah, it's been good for us. We've got a bunch of guys in there, a bunch of guys contributing productively. It's been good to be able to get everybody involved. It's been good to keep guys fresh. We faced some situations over those weeks. Obviously the heat down in Jacksonville, chasing Lamar Jackson a week ago, where having available bodies and number of bodies and using our depth has been an advantage for us, I believe.
With Frank, I know he's had a lot of double teams. People have really been targeting him, but how much too is it just difficult for a guy changing conferences, coming in and maybe seeing a lot of teams that he hasn't seen before and adjusting to that?
Yeah, I think there's you'd have to ask him, to be honest with you. I think there's an element of that, but each week there's an adjustment based on the opponent that you're playing as well. The scheme's different, the personnel's different. Maybe what you're asked to do in terms of your role may be different week to week. That's part of football to me. He's done a nice job in terms of what we've asked him to do, and there have been some things that he's dealt with in terms of chips and schemes and protections and whatnot. But I think that's football. You're going to have different challenges week in and week out, and that's kind of the battle, right? To figure out what those are and how to deal with them most effectively, both as coaches and players. That's our responsibility.
Coach, everyone's better with repetition. The league's kind of changed and taken some of those repetitions away with the less contact. Not for good reasons, right? Less contact, but also now teams are playing guys less and less in the preseason. Is it still kind of install time and learning time and 4, 5, 6? And I know everyone's kind of in that boat, but are you still trying to, you especially being in the first year, working your way towards where you can see you're going to get, but you're not there yet?
Well, I don't know how much the practice time and the rules have to do with that. Like you mentioned, we're all under the same parameters there. But I do think, your point is a good one in that that's the objective, to get better each and every week. If we're still playing in December where we're at 2 weeks ago this week, we're not doing a very good job. The objective here is to walk in the door and improve each and every day as players, as coaches, with our evolution fundamentally, from a technique standpoint, from a scheme standpoint. And I think, in my opinion anyway, those are the teams that play at the end of the year, are the teams that are able to continually do that. Championships aren't won in the first 3 weeks of September. Those games are important, no question. Every game is important. But I think the ability to improve week in and week out and continue to get better and refine your team, your individual performance, your unit performance is what championship teams do.
What strides have you seen Emmanuel Agua take since the season began?
He's done a nice job. I'd say this about Emmanuel. All he's done is come in here and do everything that we've asked him to do to the best of his ability. And he's done what we just talked about in terms of getting better. Showed a little bit of toughness battling through some injury issues during the training camp portion of things that come up from time to time. I thought he did a great job in handling them, but it did affect his performance to a degree. I think he's through some of that, and we're seeing a little bit closer to what his physical tools and abilities are.
What's this weekend going to be like for you and Matt, going at each other, kind of coming from that New England mentality and how that operates?
Yeah, that'll be fun. I love that week in and week out. In the NFL, when you've done this a period of time, kind of every week brings up those type of things. Somebody on the other team, you got a former player on the other team, you got a relationship. So that's part of it. This is a people business. I love seeing those folks, but at the end of the day, you're competing against them, and you're going to get their best shot, and you know what they're made up of, and that's what makes this environment so fun to be a part of.
Well, the last time that we talked to you, you really hadn't had a chance to work with Chris Jones that much.
Right.
But now, a couple of months really working with him, what have you learned about Chris?
You know what? He's got a great personality about him. He is very gifted in terms of physical tools and athleticism. He is a coachable guy. I think he's done a really good job in trying to embrace some of the things that we've asked him to do. He's a dynamic player, and he's got the ability to do a lot of different things well, and he's fun to work with.
Coach, is it, we hear people say we want to instill toughness, right? We want to have a tough mindset. Is that coach speak? Is that fill in time for us in the media? I mean, the game in and of itself, you have to be a certain level of tough to play. But can you be a tough defense? Have that be the personality of what your team is, or is the game too cerebral now and that old school sandlot mindset doesn't really play anymore?
Yeah, it's a fair question. And I think, obviously scheme has evolved, but there's an inherent element to this game in terms of it being a contact sport that the physicality of it can never leave it, And so I absolutely do think that there's a toughness element that's involved, and I think there's a toughness element that wins football games. In my opinion, smart, tough, dependable players, teams are what you're looking for in this thing. There's certainly an element of scheme and finesse that's involved in that. But I do think a wise old coach once gave me this line that I think is applicable, which was, a violently executed plan is sometimes better than a perfectly executed plan. And I think that still suits modern day football.